Welcome to Wesley Impact. I'm Keith Garner. What do you do to offer practical and spiritual help to people in their time of greatest need? Hey, welcome to the program today. It's never easy talking about loss, especially when speaking about losing a loved one. Today I'll be joined by Tony Cassidy, who heads up some of our work with Wesley LifeForce and our networks as part of our suicide prevention work. In addition to providing counselling services and giving those touched by suicide an opportunity to come together and grieve, there's a sharing of common experiences at our annual Wesley LifeForce Memorial services held in Sydney, Brisbane, Adelaide and Newcastle. We work with local communities around Australia to raise awareness and help to prevent suicide. And we have just recently acknowledged the sense of World Suicide Day, and we've well over 50 members of our networks, and this is all around Australia. We have affiliate networks also who work together to equip communities with the tools and resources needed to make a difference in this area. Not only do we have staff and volunteers on the ground, we also have an online community hub where we can help our networks to connect with each other, share resources and be more effective in their work. I'll be speaking with Tony more about that a little later in the programme. Speaking about losing a loved one is a sensitive issue, and many of us have been touched by this in some way. If at any point you'd like to speak with someone, please call Lifeline on 13 11 14 or send me an email and I'll have somebody contact you as soon as is reasonably possible. The email address is impacttv@wesleymission.org.au. Later in the programme we'll be joined also by Matt Doeland, who'll sing an original arrangement of Praise the Lamb. And I'll be continuing my exploration of the prophet Jeremiah and a marvellous visionary passage at the house of the potter. Wesley LifeForce was established in 1995 by a former minister of Wesley Mission, Rev Bob Dunlop, in a response to a growing number of youth suicides in Australia. The work has grown to address all age groups and to support the loved ones who are left behind. For the past 18 years, we've held an annual Wesley LifeForce Memorial service in Sydney and now in other parts around Australia. Before I speak with Tony about the work, let's take a look at this memorial service held in Sydney.
You're complicated inside, untamed and wide.
This ceremony gives each of us the opportunity to take part and acknowledge those we have lost to suicide in a significant and in a meaningful way.
Shines so bright, just like a light on a hill.
Death is not a wound to be healed or a scar to fade. Once someone has been in the world, they have always been in the world. And once they have gone, their absence will be in the world forever.
It hid the pain in your heart, just maybe this world was not.
The one good thing that happens as we meet is that we affirm, as we do all the time, you are not alone. Around you are people whose stories are different, but who have a measure and a touch of the same pain that you feel in your life. But here in this great city of ours, for just a few moments, there is a place of quiet where I hope you will find peace and the presence of God.
'Cause you touched their lives while you walked on the this earth, loving memory.
As you look around you today, may you know that you are not alone. Let us look at the sunflower and remember those we have loved, reflecting on our yesterdays and building hope for our tomorrows.
I was 11 years old when my nana died from suicide. I'd just come home from a sleepover at someone's house, and my mum was out sweeping the veranda. This was unusual because it was early on a Sunday morning. As I approached my mum, she sat me down on the veranda step and told me that my nana had died. And to this day, I thank her for her honesty in telling me how she died and that she actually took her own life.
Towards that light on a hill, light on a hill, light on a hill.
Losing a loved one to suicide is a sorrow unlike any other, but you are not alone. Wesley Mission holds annual Wesley LifeForce Memorial services in Brisbane, Adelaide, Sydney and Newcastle each year for those affected by suicide to come together in a spirit of comfort and hope. For more information, please visit wesleymission.org.au or call 1800 100 024.
So please know that you need have no hesitation to be in touch if you'd like to have more information about any aspect of our work, and in particular today, Wesley LifeForce. Our next service is this Thursday, the 15th of September at the Sydney Opera House, beginning at 12 noon. You're most welcome to join us if you're able. Also, if at any point you'd like to connect with someone for any reason during this programme or afterwards, please call Lifeline on 13 11 14 or send me an email and I'll have someone make contact with you as soon as possible. The email address, once again, is impacttv@wesleymission.org.au. Joining us today to talk more about our Wesley LifeForce networks is Tony Cassidy. Welcome, Tony.
Thanks, Keith.
Now, this is a very sensitive issue, and we recognise that, but at the same time, we've got to talk about it, haven't we?
Yeah, I think the biggest issue we've had over the years is the stigma surrounding suicide. And if we're able to talk about it and share and support those that are grieving, then we're able to address that stigma, and hopefully people will be more willing to seek help.
And people are affected across all kind of genres and types of people in our community, aren't they?
That's right. Suicide doesn't discriminate. We see completed suicides in all different age groups, in all different demographics, older people in wealthy areas, younger people or middle class in remote areas.
Tell me a little bit about the Wesley LifeForce networks, because that's part of your responsibility.
Yes.
And it's part of a strategy that we have, isn't it?
It is. So whilst we're looking, Wesley LifeForce started with the delivery of training, and we're now able to support communities through the Networks program to address the issues at a local level. So a community network is able to come together, think about what the issues are or what is happening within that community.
Just a minute, what is a network then? Who are in these networks?
So a network is a group of people who are interested in addressing the issue of suicide specifically in this case. So they may include police, local council, mental health or primary health workers, as well as community people who may have been impacted by suicide.
And how many of these are there?
So at the moment we have 67 networks operating or being supported across the country, and we're looking at a further 6 networks establishing up to March 30 next year, and we have about 10 affiliate networks.
And this includes all areas, and I need to say this includes Aboriginal and Indigenous communities in the north, doesn't it?
It does. So we operate in about 12 different Aboriginal communities across the country now, where we're supporting the Aboriginal people to address the issue themselves, which is important that they're a part of the process. It's not someone telling them how to fix it.
And presumably that's culturally relevant to the people involved, wherever we do this.
That's right. It's whenever we're looking at any community, whether it is an Aboriginal community or a community in eastern suburbs of Sydney, we want to be relevant to that community in how we operate and how we support the community.
Tony, how long have you worked at Wesley Mission and in Wesley LifeForce?
Been at Wesley Mission for about 6.5 years now, since early 2010, and managing LifeForce that whole time.
What motivates you?
I think two things are really my drivers. One is working within Wesley Mission as an organisation. I believe my faith is supported in both the workplace as well as my private life. And that is a benefit for me in knowing what I'm doing is making a difference. And it's also, I've personally been impacted by suicide in the past, and being able to address that issue and be supported by Wesley Mission, both the church and the services of Wesley Mission, to be able to do that.
Because it's been through your experience, do you think that makes a big difference to the way you go about it?
Absolutely. I think what we need to remember is the people that have been impacted by suicide, whether bereaved or self-attempters or any other thing, they're the ones that can tell us what people are thinking, what happens, what people go through. So that is very important as we look at ways of addressing the issues to prevent suicide.
Tony, you've helped us to understand that this can happen at any place to anyone. Now, if somebody's listening into our conversation here, and how can they be benefited by Wesley LifeForce, especially if they're contemplating, thinking about some of those things that might lead to self-harm?
So the important thing is, firstly, if you're having thoughts along those lines, reach out to someone, try and contact someone, whether that's Lifeline or your local GP or anyone around. Certainly when we're talking to people about how to seek help, we have an online service finder that is useful with just lists of local numbers. How do people find that?
How do they get...
If they go to our website, wesleymission.org.au, there's links through to the service finder on the website. And it'll just provide in your local area the local hospitals, local counselling services and other national helplines that are available.
And we're not arrogant enough to believe that everything in this area is all ours, are we? We're connected to others.
It's very important, particularly when we think about the Networks program, that this is taking people from all different areas of the community to address the issue. Wesley LifeForce is helping to make that happen, but we're not the end. We don't have the whole solution.
Please stay with us, as I'd like to touch base with you a little later in the programme. Welcome now Matt Doeland to sing his original arrangement of Praise the Lamb.
Oh, praise the Lamb, the risen one. Youth resounds with joy. Lift high his name and worship him. He is Lord of all. Oh, praise the Lamb, the risen one. The angels will proclaim. Lift high his name and worship him. He is Lord of all. And he will return on clouds with trumpet sound, and every knee will bow and will sing in one accord. Oh, praise the Lamb, the Holy One. He was and is to come. Lift high his name and worship him, for he is Lord of all. And he will return on clouds with trumpet sound, and every knee will bow and will sing in one accord. Oh, praise the Lamb, the Holy One, who was and is to
It's been 200 years since the first Methodists met in Australia. To celebrate 2 centuries of faith and pioneering care, CEO and presenter Rev Dr. Keith Garner takes us back to where it all began.
But we don't begin here at the heart of London. We begin in a town in the north of England.
In this fascinating narrative, Rev Garner chronicles the history of the life and times of the founder of Methodism, John Wesley. This fresh and thought-provoking documentary takes us on a journey throughout the United Kingdom, beginning in John Wesley's hometown of Epworth.
John Wesley was born here on the 17th of June 1703.
This 1-hour DVD travels onto his education years and beginnings of social justice in Oxford, to his final years in London. For more information on John Wesley, the man and his mission, call 02 9263 5555 or email us at impacttv@wesleymission.org.au.
If you would like to see more of the work of Wesley Mission, visit wesleymission.org.au. You can watch loads more videos, catch up on past episodes of Wesley Impact TV, find out about our diverse range of services, and get involved to help make a positive difference in your community. You can also connect with us on social media and stay up to date on the latest news and information from Wesley Mission. wesleymission.org.au.
So continuing in Jeremiah, God now urges the prophet to go to the potter's house, where he observes the potter hard at work fashioning different kinds of vessels. So let me read to you from Jeremiah 18, 1 through to 11. This is the word that came to Jeremiah from the Lord. Go down to the potter's house, and there I'll give you my message. So I went down to the potter's house, and I saw him working at the wheel. But the pot he was shaping from the clay was marred in his hands. So the potter formed it into another pot, shaping it as seemed best to him. Then the word of the Lord came to me. He said, Can I not do with you, Israel, as this potter does, declares the Lord? Like clay in the hand of the potter, so are you in my hand, Israel. If at any time I announce that a nation or a kingdom is to be uprooted, torn down and destroyed, and if that nation I warned repents of its evil, then I will relent and not inflict on it the disaster I had planned. And if at another time I announce that a nation or kingdom is to be built up or planted, and if it does evil in my sight and does not obey me, then I will reconsider the good I had intended to do for it. Now therefore, say to the people of Judah and those living in Jerusalem, this is what the Lord says. Look, I am preparing a disaster for you and devising a plan against you. So turn from your evil ways, each one of you, and reform your ways and your actions. Well, there are a number of things that I think are worth noting from this passage. First of all, Jeremiah obeyed the call. God gave him quite clear pattern of what he was to do. He was told to go down to that house where the potter is, and there he would receive the message. Now, he does something else that I think is important. He uses his eyes to see the obvious. It wasn't just a case of going to this place. He had to look at what was happening. And we're told he went to the potter's house, and I saw him working at the wheel. To observe what was there, only as he observed would God be able to tell him what he had to say. Then what he saw was a pot not turning out very well. Now, I've only done pottery because it was a part of the art course at school just 2 or 3 years ago. But I know what it's like to do something and for it to go wrong. And you can imagine that as he observed a potter, remember this is somebody for whom this is their profession, and it goes wrong. What a disaster. And in that moment, something significant happens because the potter chooses to go in another direction, to do something very, very different. That's what I think verse 4 is telling us in this passage. But the pot he was shaping was marred in his hands, so the potter formed it into another pot. Now, the heart of the message from this particular passage is a very real one. And I think it has some encouragement in the light of what we were talking about earlier in the show. And the message is that God's infinite power can be compared to that of a potter. And he will continue to mould his people even when things go wrong. And so, as we heard, there are increasing numbers of people in this lovely country of ours whose lives become so damaged in one way or another, or brought to an end very sadly by themselves. And you can think that's all there is to say, but it's never all there is to say. We want to offer the word of hope. We want to say to people, you're not alone. We also want to say to them, God can remake our lives out of the most disastrous pot into something more beautiful. And we find that not only in our Wesley LifeForce, but all across our services, that people are remade. They're given the opportunity to start again. And for people who know what it is to journey on difficult journeys, it's really important that you realise whatever your experience is at that point in time, it's not the end. There's always hope. The "you're not alone" could be translated to many other things, to family work, that you've got somebody alongside them, walking alongside them, giving them hope. And together we want to offer that kind of hope that we find in Jesus Christ to those of you that share with us week by week. It's always good to hear from people, because sometimes we hear how lives have been put together. Not long ago I had a letter that said exactly that they felt that they'd been helped, and not only had they been helped, they found their life had a totally new purpose. Isn't that marvellous? That's like God getting hold of the pot. And what is more, this is the tough stuff in this passage, that really the prophet reaches out and says things are going to be bad. There's going to be disaster. You know, that's important to hear, because it's exactly in those places that we need to hear that message of hope, that we need to hear of the God who can always remake. So go with me, if you can, and look at the potter, look at the messed up pot, and see that there can be a new pot. Beautiful, demanding, something that challenges us, and something that gives us enormous hope. That's what God wants from our lives as we place our lives into the hands of the great potter of all people.
If you would like to contact Keith and find out more about today's program, write to us at Wesley Mission, Post Office Box A5555, Sydney South 1235, or you can send an email to impacttv@wesleymission.org.au. On our website, you can catch up on past episodes of Wesley Impact, find out more about our work, read online magazines and articles, and connect with us on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. You can also connect to Keith's blog and stay up to date on all of the latest news and information from Wesley Mission. wesleymission.org.au.
Caring for a child with disability is more than a full-time job. It's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, non-stop caring. Sadly, without a break, this constant strain will take its toll. Help us give carers a break before they break down. Donate to Wesley Mission Disability Services before it's too late.
Thank you so much for joining us today and for being part of our conversation. Please don't hesitate to connect with us, as I said earlier in the show, or find out about Wesley Mission, or write to me. The email address and website is impacttv@wesleymission.org.au. And wesleymission.org.au is always going to be that easy contact. If you'd like to speak to someone about any of the issues, the particularly sensitive ones, anything that's troubling you, please call Lifeline 13 11 14 or send me an email, and I'll arrange for somebody to personally contact you as soon as possible. Now, Tony, if someone's listening to us and has experienced the loss of a loved one to suicide, what would you say to them?
I think the important message is don't give up hope. There are people who want to listen and want to help. There's hope in coming together with other people. They will find people, relationships may change with people, but let that happen and let people listen and let people help support you.
And all our best prayers are with Wesley LifeForce as we look to the future. Thank you, Tony. It's never easy talking about loss in this way, but I do feel it's an important part of our work and important to communicate if you've been impacted any way by this particular issue. Thank you for joining us today, and until next time when we meet at the same time next week, God bless you.
Wesley Mission answers more than 25,000 calls through Lifeline each year. To find out more, visit wesleymission.org.au.